UA High is the most prestigious high school in all of Japan when it comes to students with quirks, and their first years are nothing to slouch at. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the top 10 quirks in Class 1A. Now with this, we're going to be talking about the power of the quirk and not so much the characters that have them. A rule I'm taking into account here is not using one for all, because that is clearly at its core the strongest quirk of all the 1A students. So not counting Deku, that leaves 19 other students to choose from, and I will be narrowing those down to the top 10. Before we get started though, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Froppy, who just missed the cut here. Her quirk is a cool one, giving her all the abilities of a frog. And back in Season 2 during her work study, she was obviously very effective in helping out the situation. Her long tongue and ability to hide things in her stomach are great weapons, and with some fine tuning to her quirk, she'll probably one day be able to make large leaps over great distances. But in the case of this list, she really did just miss out. Starting off this top 10 is the Quirk Pop-Off, which belongs to Minetta. I know what a lot of you might be thinking, and I want to remind you that this is a top 10 video for the quirks of the students, and not the students themselves. Minetta has proven useful often thanks to the Pop-Off quirk, and really anyone would be able to pull off using it pretty well with some training. It's an extremely accessible quirk, only requiring you to rip extremely sticky spheres from somewhere on your body, and depending on your health at the time, they can be stuck to anything for a full day if you're at your healthiest. With a quirk like Pop-Off, you can end up finding yourself at a major advantage in a battle. The biggest thing that works against Minetta is that if he pulls off too many balls too quickly, he'll end up bleeding from the scalp. If someone using the quirk Pop-Off can get to the point where the place they rip off the spheres doesn't bleed after too long, then the biggest weakness of the quirk will be in check. They'll be able to create weapons using these spheres, create traps for opponents to be stuck to, and essentially be able to traverse most anywhere by sticking the ball to any surface, even one that is wet. Just because this one belongs to Minetta, you may end up sleeping on it, but I assure you it's a great quirk that is well worth having. Hitting the number 9 spot is Mina Asha's quirk, Acid. It's a pretty basic seeming quirk, but with the power of acid, you'd be able to accomplish a lot. The acid will be created from your skin, and can be created at rapid quantities. This acid is so strong it can even melt metal objects, meaning that there is essentially no bad guy that can avoid your main attacks without taking some sort of damage. The level of solubility and viscosity of the acid is completely controlled by the user of the quirk, and that proves a big deal when it comes to viability. If you're not trying to kill anyone, you definitely don't want to have high solubility with this acid, and with a higher viscosity, it'll stick to surfaces and act almost like a shield. That said, the acid can also be used at a battle for actions like penetrating walls and other normally secure locations. The acid does a pretty good job offering usage in fighting people, as well as getting around locations and infiltrating different places. The major drawback with this quirk is that depending on how long you have the quirk active and producing acid, then your skin will gradually lose its natural resistance to corrosion. I'm not really sure if it would be possible or not to actually train your skin not to corrode from constantly having acid pour on your body, but if so, then this quirk becomes that much better. There can definitely be a lot of problems with attempting to use acid against everything, which leaves this quirk towards the bottom of the list. But in battle, it's a really great one to turn to against mostly any kind of opponent. Coming in at number 8 is the Cork of Kota, Any Voice. This quirk is pretty self-explanatory with just its name, being that you're given the power to talk to animals. Since the user of this quirk can talk to animals, they also have the chance to command them to do their bidding, and this can for sure come in handy. This isn't just useful in a battle, but it can also help an awful lot when collecting information or working stealth missions. If you want a bird to literally act as a drone of some sort, you'd be able to easily command them to circle a position for some time and come back to give you a report, since you'll be capable of understanding everything they tell you. If you need to launch an attack from far away, you can request help from bugs like ants and worms to burrow throughout the ground, and using their combined efforts, they can take down many enemies. The true weakness of this quirk is that it relies solely on being able to use your voice, which can be drowned out by plenty of things. If you're trying to fight a battle with present mic, it's going to be pretty difficult to get your voice out there, as his will drain yours out unless you're literally talking directly into an animal's ear. The biggest drawback of all though is that it's possible animals could just choose to not listen to you. You never know if an animal will not take too kindly to the way you ask for their help, and doing things the wrong way could absolutely result in you being ignored by them. This quirk isn't about controlling animals, it's about being able to talk to them and ask for help. A big part of making this quirk work right is being a decent person. Solidifying his quirk at the number 7 spot on this list is none other than Kirishima's Hardening. The Hardening quirk is pretty much the ultimate example of quirks stating their power with just the name, and it makes your body harden. This is probably the most basic quirk on the list, but it's truthfully deserving of its spot. The defensive benefits of being able to turn as hard as a rock go without saying, but offensively, you can be a force to be reckoned with as well. Since your body is becoming hard and rigid like rock, you'll end up being able to not just smash into opponents with great force, but also be able to cut them up to a possibly severe degree. However, probably the best part of this quirk ties in with its greatest weakness. With Hardening, the only way to make it stronger is to constantly keep getting hit and damaged. However, there is a limit to just how much damage you can take with this quirk before it starts to crack under that pressure. Now, that being said, if you can survive massive damage to your body while hardened, your resistance will only get better. It's just a lot easier said than done to maintain your stamina enough to escape a battle when you're at the absolute farthest your body can go. You'll have a tough time against attacks that aren't physical as well, like a battle of Todoroki or something of that like. Though even with these drawbacks, this is a very good quirk for close combat and for a defensive-oriented person. Next up is number 6, and this spot belongs to Engine Quirk, used by the Ida family. The Engine Quirk allows the holder to run at a very fast speed, and that's the bare bones usage of it. So why would I rank it so high then? Well, the answer is quite simple. In the DC universe, the Flash is so important of a hero, he is part of the Justice League. That's a pretty high honor for someone whose power is that they're just the fastest being alive. So Superman may have something to say about that. Anyway, just being able to move incredibly fast would make you a very valuable hero. You'll be able to escape almost anything within seconds, and when it comes to helping victims, that can be a huge deal. Your ability to fight will definitely be dependent on the work you put in to learn how to use your legs in battle. But outside of combat, the Engine Quirk makes a person very valuable in rescue missions. If there is a massive fire in a large multi-story building, there's a good chance that you'd be able to rescue most people inside before the engines on your legs are able to overheat. Speaking of that, that's the biggest issue with this quirk. You need to be able to feel those engines in your legs, which would likely be through some sort of fruit juice. Plus, if you want to achieve actual high power results from your engines, you'll need to deal with an extreme amount of pain by cutting the pipes out of your legs and training relentlessly so new, stronger ones grow in their place. The engine in the legs can overheat and result in an inability to continue using them. But all in all, this quirk is fantastic, regardless of its drawbacks and incredibly fast speeds aren't something any villain would disregard. Opening up the top half of this list is the quirk of Ochaku Urudaka, Zero Gravity. With this quirk, anything that you touch with the pads of your fingertips will begin to float away, completely destroying the laws of physics. Joke aside, this quirk is absurdly powerful in its own way, and if the person with it can train themselves to a point where they're strong enough to lift massive objects off the ground, it can be used in every kind of mission possible. In the case of Urudaka, the weight limit for her is objects that weigh around 3 tons, but I can only assume it would be possible to train this quirk in some way to increase the weight limit even more. A villain might be completely screwed if any point they're affected by this quirk, and that's what makes it so good. Is there some sort of explosive device that you don't have time to stop? Just use zero gravity. Float it up incredibly high into the air, and boom, it explodes, and more than likely nobody's hurt. Perhaps something incredibly important needs to be moved from point A to point B, and it's too heavy. Well, this quirk will solve that issue without much of a problem. If trained properly to avoid the nauseousness that comes with straining while using the quirk on multiple objects at once, it's possible that its user could be unstoppable. That being said, the quirk isn't exactly incredible just on its own for combat, and it would work much better as support for another hero, so that's what keeps it down at number 5 on the list. Placing at number 4 on the list is Tokiyami's Dark Shadow. This quirk is interesting in that it is almost like having another creature within you that you can control at will. Dark Shadow acts as a monstrous shadow creature that can be created at will by the holder of the quirk, and when it is activated, it's incredibly strong. Dark Shadow can change shape, fight enemies far away from its user, and doesn't adversely affect the person controlling it regardless of the damage it sustains. This quirk is incredibly offensive, and its strength is difficult to match, but it doesn't come without weakness. Dark Shadow is made up of dark energy. It needs to recharge after taking too many hits or being forced to stretch out too far. It is also quite small when in direct sunlight, but it is significantly easier to control. However, at night, it becomes gigantic and is very difficult to give orders to, becoming far too powerful for anything to deal with. We saw in the anime during the attack by the League of Villains just what will happen when Dark Shadow is no longer controlled at night, and it is terrifying. The user's emotions can have an impact on Dark Shadow as well, and that just goes and makes things more unpredictable. Due to sheer power, I decided to put this quirk high up on the list, but with all these uncertainties thrown into the mix, its spot is capped at number 4. Though I will say that if someone could find a way to control their emotions and somehow get Dark Shadow into line when it's pitch black outside, they'd have a real shot at becoming the number 1 hero. The number 3 spot on this list is taken by a fan favorite quirk, Shoto Todoroki's Half Cold, Half Hot. This quirk is, to put it simply, one where you can control fire with one side of your body and ice with the other. These two powers are polar opposites, no pun intended, but it works so shockingly well together. When you use the fire side of your body, you're going to end up heating up the whole body, but with the other side's ice, you can cool right back down and vice versa. This is quite literally the yin and yang of quirks, one needing the other to truly be useful as they can be so dangerous to the holder of the quirk. The ice is a fantastic defensive quirk, not only giving you the ability to freeze out an opponent in combat, but also throw up walls of ice that can act as a fantastic shield. You're also able to freeze projectiles and other objects that come your way, adding more to the defensive nature of such a power. In the case of the fire though, this can be seen as the more offensive part of the quirk. Nobody wants to be burned by fire, even more so than ending up frozen in some ice. So you can possibly end a fight before it even begins by brandishing some flames. When it comes to weaknesses, the main problem with this quirk is that if you use one side more than the other for an extended period of time, you will end up leaving yourself susceptible to some serious injuries. A prolonged usage of the flames can burn your body and make your body temperature skyrocket, while too much of the ice will give you frostbite and end up lowering your body temperature dangerously. You need to alternate through the two as much as you can to help make sure no possible lethal damage is actually done to your body. We now reach the penultimate spot on this list, and it is taken by the quirk of our deuteragonist, Katsuki Bakugo. Explosion. The explosion quirk is one that over time continues to grow stronger under the right conditions. The sweat created by the holder of the explosion quirk is akin to nitroglycerin, which can be used in creating explosions. The more the user sweats, the greater the explosions it can create from the palms of their hands. The user of the quirk isn't affected by the explosions either, save for some recoil. The more the holder of this quirk sweats, the stronger the explosions will become, and it's to be expected that if you're in a long battle, you're going to be sweating often. Lots can be done with explosions in battle, obviously, being able to make something explode directly in the face or body of an opponent, but there are also tactical advantages too. You can use the explosions to propel yourself around as Bakugo does several times in the anime, and you can also destroy objects or walls that can prevent your movement somewhere. There isn't exactly any covered advantages for a quirk like this, so stealth missions wouldn't really be a strong suit. But with all the things that go on top of being a powerful quirk in combat, there are way more pros than cons. The only real weakness comes when fighting in the cold, as explosions will take a little longer to go off, and you may not sweat as much as you would in a warm environment. All in all, explosion just might be the best quirk in Class 1A, except it isn't. Finally, entering at the number 1 spot is Momo Yaoyorozu's quirk, Creation. If you guys saw my video a while back asking the question, what is the best quirk in My Hero Academia as of the 3rd season of the anime, then you'll know I think very highly of this quirk. Creation allows the user to create anything they want that isn't a living thing, as long as it knows the atomic configuration of the object. When equipped with that knowledge, you can change up the materials that something is normally made from. The next thing you know, you could be making anything you need in a matter of moments. A quirk like this has endless possibilities, and can have usage in any type of situation a hero could find themselves in. The only drawback is needing to make sure you've eaten a ton of fatty food using the quirk, because creating things takes a ton of molecules from fat and rearranges them to make the items. In the case of Yaoyorozu, her own personality is the greatest benefit and detractor for having a quirk like this, as she is super smart and diligent, which lets her keep a book on a person that details the creation of items with only a need to read about something once to understand its makeup. However, her own insecurities hinder her usage of the quirk to its fullest ability, and I think that in the hands of someone with major confidence, a powerful brain, and a big appetite, that this quirk may actually be even better than One for All. With the power to create anything instantly, you'd be hard pressed to find something that would at all be better than that in Class 1A, or among pro heroes in general. Well, that'll do it for this top 10 list. I hope you guys don't mind that I didn't include One for All in this, even though I did make the comment about Creation possibly being better than it. In the grand scheme of things, One for All is truly the best quirk among the students in 1A, even if Deku hasn't been able to hone it enough yet to prove that. Regardless though, you guys know I want to hear from you in the comments below. Did I get this one right? Is Creation the best quirk in Class 1A? I'll be checking the comments to find out what you think. Aside from that though, this is going to do it for this video. Please check out the reviews I have done for the 4th season of My Hero Academia, Hero Mystic Sage, and all my other My Hero Academia videos as well. There is more to come in the future, and plenty of other animes as well. Make sure you subscribe to Mystic Sage so you don't miss out on more great content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.